A misshapen and uneven ball of white light. That is the official description, written not in a tabloid, not in an anonymous tip, but in a classified United States Air Force mission report, stamped secret, filed under Operation Inherent Resolve, and locked away until October 2025. The person who wrote those words was a military sensor operator, an E4, a specialist, someone trained to identify aircraft, vehicles, personnel, and apparently something they couldn't identify at all. But here's what gets stranger. That description is just one of 4 separate UAP encounters documented across 4 different classified mission reports, spanning 3 years, 2 countries, and multiple platforms. And the most disturbing detail isn't what they saw, it's what happened, or rather what didn't happen when they tried to find out more. We'll get to that. But first, you need to understand what these documents actually are, because that context changes everything. These are not UFO hotline reports. These are not blurry photos from a gas station parking lot. These documents are official U.S. CENTCOM mission reports, MISREPs, filed by active duty Air Force personnel operating under Operation Inherent Resolve in the skies over Syria and Iraq. They were classified secret. One was marked secret/no foreign, meaning it was not to be shared with foreign nationals, not even allied intelligence partners. These documents were approved for release to AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, and declassified in October 2025 by Major General Richard A. Harrison, U.S. CENTCOM Chief of Staff. That's how serious this chain of custody is. Hold on here, because this detail gets even stranger when combined with what we're about to walk through. Across these 4 reports, covering missions in May 2022, July 2022, February 2023, and October 2024, UAP events were documented in the same way as enemy aircraft, radar jamming, and air-to-air weapons engagements. They were logged in the same standardized military reporting format, the same form used to report a Russian Su-30 intercepting a U.S. aircraft was used to report an unidentified phenomenon that nobody could explain. Let's start at the beginning. May 2022. A single U.S. Air Force reconnaissance aircraft departs Sigonella Air Base in Sicily, Italy, and proceeds to conduct surveillance operations over the eastern Mediterranean, the waters off the Syrian and Lebanese coasts. The mission lasts over 20 hours. The aircraft is running full-motion video and signals intelligence collection against dozens of targets: Syrian Navy operational areas, Russian military assets at Latakia, missile support facilities, coastal defense sites. At one point, the crew observes a probable Russian A-50U Mainstay, a surveillance aircraft, and 2 IL-38 maritime patrol planes parked on the ground. They track a probable Gorshkov-class frigate, a Slava-class cruiser, and Udaloy-class destroyer. The mission is classified secret, releasable to the USA and Five Eyes partners. And then, at 21:47 Zulu, something unexpected happens. The aircraft is intercepted. 1 to 3 enemy planes, including what is assessed as a possible Russian Air Force Su-30, close to within 5 nautical miles. The intercepting aircraft approach from the Syrian coast, fly directly beneath the American plane, operating at flight level 190, while the American asset is at flight level 243, and remain in that position for approximately 2 minutes, before flying south and then returning west. The mission report notes, there was no impact to the mission. The crew continued as planned. But that's not the detail that matters most from this mission. Hours later, at 01:17 Zulu on May 30th, something is observed flying north to northeast, one possible small UAP. The crew follows it for as long as possible. The screener, the sensor operator whose job is to identify everything, cannot get a positive ID. That's it. That's the entire description. They tracked it, they couldn't identify it, and the report moves on. Can you believe that? An aircraft is buzzed by a Russian fighter jet, an intercept in an active conflict zone, and in that same mission report, buried after the Russian interception, there is a single, almost clinical entry, one possible small UAP observed, followed as long as possible, no positive identification. Now let's move to July 2022. This is a different platform, a different unit, operating over eastern Syria in support of Task Force Chosen. The mission clocks nearly 21 hours. The crew surveys compounds, follows vehicles, watches personnel movements, the kind of painstaking surveillance work that rarely makes headlines but drives real-world intelligence decisions. At one point, they observe a convoy of approximately 30 personnel carried in white pickup trucks and cargo vehicles. They track a possible artillery system in the back of a truck. They note what appears to be a shooting range. Every detail is logged. Every observation has a grid coordinate. It looks like a normal report. And then, at 0239 Zulu on July 31, 2022, there is this. An unidentified aerial phenomenon is observed. The UAP event occurs in less than a minute. It moves from north to south. First seen location, a grid coordinate in eastern Syria. 1 minute, north to south. Gone. The report provides a UAP first seen location, a specific coordinate in what the document calls KP9, and notes that the event lasted under 60 seconds. Altitude, depth, velocity, trajectory, all marked with a dash. Unknown, unestimated, not captured. What I'm about to show you now explains why these reports were held for years before they were released to AARO, because it's not just the sightings themselves, it's the pattern across them. February 2023. Now we have a two-ship of F-15E Strike Eagles, actual combat aircraft, armed with AIM-120D radar-guided missiles, AIM-9X infrared-guided missiles, 510 rounds of gun ammunition, and weapons the document doesn't specify because that detail is still redacted. These are not surveillance drones. These are frontline fighter jets, operating over Syria under Operation Inherent Resolve, tasked with defensive counter-air operations. Their call sign checks in with a controller identified as Kingpin. The airspace is contested, and at 0221 Zulu, something starts jamming their radar. The affected system is the APG-82, the F-15E's primary radar, across the 8.8 to 9.9 GHz frequency band. Duration, 3 minutes. The crew's working theory, noted directly in the document, is that this is an area of effect Turkish X-band jammer operating on or across the Syrian-Turkish border. That theory is noted, but it is not confirmed. The mission impact is logged as none. 4 minutes later, 4 minutes, at 0025 Zulu, the crew observes 3 possible UAPs. The document logs this as an airsite event. 3 possible UAP. Altitude, flight level 240. A weapons systems video is produced. The crew notes 2 white objects, infrared significant. No radar returns received from the UAP. No health effects experienced by aircrew. The entry ends with NFTR, nothing further to report. Think about the sequence. Radar jamming of unknown confirmed origin. Then 4 minutes later, 3 possible UAPs with infrared signatures and no radar returns. The military's own document treats these as 2 separate events. The radar jamming in one section, the UAP sighting in another. They are not connected in the report, but they occurred 4 minutes apart in the same airspace during an active combat air patrol. At this point, we can no longer call it a coincidence, or at least the documents themselves don't seem to be asking us to. They're simply recording what happened in sequence, in the same standardized boxes used to record everything else. And that brings us to the most detailed account in this collection. October 2024. A single ISR platform departs Muwafaq Salti Air Base in Jordan and proceeds to conduct a mission that will last over 20 hours. The aircraft is equipped with a full-motion video system and a targeting pod designated AN/DAS-4, along with additional avionics listed in the document as AH/GMesh/Santa Fe. The mission includes 3 separate FMV taskings and 13 hours of signals intelligence collection. The aircrew is tracking personnel, individuals on motorcycles, vehicles, buildings, in support of ongoing operations against violent extremist organizations. The global campaign notation is GCPVEO. This is as operational as it gets. This is real-time intelligence against real targets. At 12:30 Zulu, the platform arrives at its second surveillance point and begins observing a vehicle. From 13:13 to 14:10 Zulu, the crew conducts what is called a 3-stop follow-on on a single individual mounted on a motorcycle. This is methodical, patient surveillance. And then, from 15:59 to 16:44 Zulu, a window of 45 minutes, something interrupts the mission in a way no prior activity had. The official description, written in the UAP section of the report, reads light/glare flashed of unknown origin, flashed across FMV camera feed. Physical state, plasma. Propulsion means, unknown. Signatures, light. And then the narrative description expands on it. Multiple glares or light from unknown origin are observed at different angles and directions. At 15:59 Zulu, 16:02 Zulu, and 16:44 Zulu, a light or glare crosses directly on the full-motion video camera. At 16:09 and 16:20 Zulu, the crew observes what the document describes as a light glare halo effect at the top of the camera feed. The visual description filed by the reporting personnel, a misshapen and uneven ball of white light. The aircrew assessed this as having no mission impact. They assessed the UAP as benign. But here is the detail that should make you pause. When the document asks whether the aircrew interrogated the UAP, whether they tried to get sensor returns, radar data, any kind of technical signature, the answer is no. When it asks whether the UAP reacted to observation, no. When it asks about RF frequency, RF duration, kinetic altitude, kinetic velocity, kinetic trajectory, every single field is blank or marked with a dash. The physical state is listed as plasma. Propulsion means unknown, and under UAP advanced capabilities and/or materials, no. An observer's assessment of the UAP in that same October 2024 report, benign. And yet the document was classified secret, approved for release to AARO only after formal declassification by a major general. The report was originally set to declassification in 2049. A benign ball of plasma light documented in a 20-page classified mission report not to be shared with foreign nationals, not available to the public for 25 years. Now, let's put all of this together, because when you read these 4 documents side by side, a very specific picture emerges, not of alien spacecraft or science fiction, but of something perhaps more unsettling, a systematic, professional military acknowledgement that something is being observed in restricted airspace repeatedly over years across multiple platforms by trained personnel, and that no one can explain it. The May 2022 event, one possible small UAP followed as long as possible, no positive identification. The July 2022 event, a sub-minute phenomenon moving north to south, all kinetic data unknown. The February 2023 event, 3 objects with infrared signatures and no radar returns, appearing 4 minutes after unexplained radar jamming. The October 2024 event, a misshapen ball of white light appearing multiple times over 45 minutes at different angles, assessed as plasma, propulsion unknown. Each report was filed using the same military form. Each UAP section sits alongside weapons loadouts, fuel receipts, radar jamming logs, enemy aircraft intercepts. There is no special section for unusual phenomena. The military simply has a box for it, right next to the box for air refueling operations, and ground target follows. And every single one of these reports was approved for release to AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, the body Congress specifically created to investigate and report on exactly these kinds of encounters. What AARO does with them, what conclusions, if any, were reached, is not in these documents. The documents end where they always end, with a weather note, a mission effectiveness rating, and the word satisfactory. After all of these pages, all of these timestamps, all of these clinical descriptions of light moving through restricted military airspace over active conflict zones, only one question remains. If the answer were simple, a flare, a drone, a reflection, a sensor artifact, why does the form have a box for plasma?